I'm your host, Sean MacKenzie. Thank you for joining me once again on my channel on data engineering. In this episode, we go back to our Python on Snowflake playlist, and we're going to take a look at how to create a new table from a query. Now, this is something that data engineers need to do all the time, and once you learn how to do it, it's quite easy, but it's very, very handy to be able to take a query that has all kinds of complex logic in it and just output a table of the query output, and that is super handy. Let's get to it. Interested in more cool topics like these? Make sure to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. Okay guys, pretty fun one today. Let's get our idle shell open there, and I'm going to create a new file. And if you have not installed the Snowflake connector for Python there, make sure to go back to my earlier episode where we've installed our connector, and that gives us a nice connectivity with Snowflake. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import that Snowflake connector as SC, and that's going to be everything that we need to use today for imports. We could actually use pandas for some of this, but I don't think it's necessary to demonstrate what we want to show today. So I'm going to put some feedback there in the console with a print command, just saying connecting, and then I can start my try except finally blocks here, and those are going to help us in case we get an error in our code. Then that's going to make sure that we're able to close our connection gracefully so that it doesn't, leave it open with the Snowflake host, and that's what we have there. So inside of here, we're doing our connection is equal to sc.connect, and I'm using the user and password and account and the warehouse that I've been using for all of my demonstrations here, the project database and the project schema, and the role has been set to the role for the user that I have chosen. And so that in this case it's a sysadmin role, but you might have many other roles, and that is loaded into the variable there. So I print connected once we're connected there, and then let's finish off our except block here. We can do except exception as E. We'll print that out, and then finally we'll go ahead and close our connection, and that'll be enough for what we need today. So we'll print disconnecting, and then we'll do connection.close, and that is enough for that. So that finally block is gonna run whether or not there's an error. It's still going to run after, and it's going to do that close command. And then once that is closed, we can put done at the end there, and we are good to go. So that's going to give us everything we need to open our connection and connect to our database. There's our try, there's our exception block there, and our finally block, and that's good enough for today. You can also put on, if CNN, then CNN close. You can put that on there as well, as I've done in other episodes. That'll actually check if there's a connection, but we'll leave that off for today. Okay, so I'll go ahead and hit F5 on that, and we'll just see if our connection is working. There we've got our connecting, our connected, disconnecting, and closed, and those are all the little prompts that you saw in our code here. And so that leaves us good to go so that we can do some of our programming here against the database. And so let's set up an SQL string, and that'll help us to sort of get started. So as you've seen in some previous episodes, I'm using a project table, and I also have some other tables we're going to use today. But I'll just say, like you would be connecting like a select top 1000, or you could do select star from project limit 1000. You can do that in Snowflake as well. And there's only a few rows in here. I'm just doing that to show how you might connect to it. And here we go. So what I'll do is I'll set our records, our recs variable equal to cs.execute, and that's the SQL that you see there. And then I can just loop through that, the return values for the set there that comes back, and we'll see what that does. We'll hit F5. There we go. Bam. We've got our list of projects. There's a kale farm, a skyscraper, marathon olive farm, all that kind of stuff. And that is what we want to see. We've closed our connection, and we're back out again. So we can also take a look at our staff table. So there's a staff table as well, and you can see the output there. So that's the staff table, and we have one more table that we might want to see, and that is the staff project staff table, and that has all of the assignments. So this is a junction table between staff and projects, and so this is a very common scenario that you might have as a data engineer. We've got a table of customers and a table of products, and then in between those you've got orders, where the orders bring everything together of customers and products, right? So that's a junction table, and today we have a junction table as well. You can see on the console there are some numbers reflecting those from the project staff table, and so there is our project staff table. Now, before we get to a more complicated example, let's do the simplest example of using create as here. So what we'll do is we'll do create table project copy as, and we'll do select star from project as the very simplest example. If you just wanted to make a copy of another table, you could do as select star from project, and that will give you a copy of that table, which you can use for many different purposes. And I'll remove the looping through the records because the return is not the same when we're doing this kind of query, but I will do some feedback to the user so that they can see that this has actually gone through, it's been completed. So we'll say copied, and I'll throw on cnn.commit here. I don't think that's actually needed, but we'll see here. Is it cnn commit or cs.commit? Let's give that a try. And so we can hit F5 and just see what we get there. And there we go. So we got, oh yeah, the cursor object has no commit. It's actually cnn.commit. So that was broken. And let's try that instead there. And we can go ahead and hit F5 again. And we'll see if it's already created. Oh, it is already there. Okay, so you do not need to use commit at all for your DDL statements, which are create tables and things like that. I wasn't sure if this one also shares that trait, but it appears that we do not need that. So let's get rid of that line. So there we go. So now we've got our create table project copy as select from project, and we created our table, and now it exists. So now we can select from it. So I pasted back in the loop through on the records just so that we can do a select. And let's take a look at that. So we'll go ahead, select star from project copy, and we should get some feedback here into the console. There we go. So now we've got a copy of the original table, which was what we wanted to do in the first place. That is exactly what we want to see there. It says copied down there, and we've got all the rows that we wanted to see. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, does this work if I have a query that's, a lot more complex, has a bunch of joins in it and things like that? And the answer is yes. And so we can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create a query based off of the three tables that we looked at before. Now, we do have the schema for these tables, so we know the field names. And so we can go ahead and create our query, and I've created select last name, first name, and project name. I don't need to qualify those fields because they are unique in the tables that they are from. So just keep that in mind if you're creating queries of your own. But what we'll do is we'll create select last name, first name, project name from staff, and then we'll join project staff as PST there on PST.staff ID. That's the project staff table, staff ID. We'll join that onto the ID of the staff table, and we'll also join the project, and using the project ID, we'll connect that or join that onto the PST.project ID field. And so that's going to create a junction. That's going to use our junction table with the detail from the two other tables, the project and the staff tables, and we can order that by our last name and first name. And this is very nice and handy because that means we can create a table and we can sort it and order it and do all kinds of things with it, and as a query, and then we can have a table output for that. Well, I hit F5 there and it looks like I don't have a closing bracket. There we go. Let's put that in. And so we hit F5, and so now we should have this query that has, there we go. We've got our query with last name, first name, and the project that they're on. So they could be on several projects or not. And in this case, we have a very small set in that join, but you can see Wanda Cooper's working on the marathon, and James Duncan's also working on the marathon, and Archie McDuff, he's working on the skyscraper, and Nancy Chang is working on the mansion. So we've got that nice sort of junction view that we might be using, but we might want to have a table for that. Sometimes tables are way faster, and they can be used for all kinds of other purposes. And so being able to go create table staff assignments, and then as this big query that we have, that's going to do all of the processing one time, but then we've got this super fast table result that's left over at the end, and that's going to be really awesome for our project. I gotta tell you, as a data engineer, you will use this skill over and over again. Now, that records variable is not going to get the return values that we are expecting there. So let's go ahead and we'll cut out the loop through of the data set. We don't really need that right now, and we'll print created at the end of this just so we have some feedback, and we can put the cursor in there and hit F5, and let's see if we got our table this time. So there we go, we got connected, and we created our table, disconnected, and left our connection closed, and that is exactly what we want to see there. We always want to make sure that that one gets closed. Okay, moving on. So here is our statement, and it looks like our statement was executed without any issues. And so now we can go, and we've got this staff assignments table. We can change our SQL here, and we can select star from staff assignments, and we'll execute that using the cursor, and we can put some output there. You can also just do this part of it in Snowsite in the browser, but since we're already in Python, we can execute this here. So we'll do select star from staff assignments. Let's execute that and see what we get back. So there we go. We've got the fields that we're looking for there. We've got Nancy Chang in the new mansion project, and Wanda Cooper and James Duncan and Archie McDuff. They're all in the projects that we expected. We've got a brand new table that we can use for all kinds of stuff if we need to, and that's how you can use create table as in Python. Need a great time entry solution for your staff out in the field? Make sure to check out my Bill Zone system. The link is in the description.